For art that's in our midst tonight, and so I'd like to welcome the project manager, the one who is responsible for getting the artists together. I'll say not inspiring necessarily or collecting, but anyway, the idea behind this art that's in the room tonight. Please welcome Kim Embretson.
Well, Mayor and council members, I want to first of all thank you for being the sponsor for this. In order to receive a grant from the Lake Region Arts Council as part of the Minnesota Cultural and Heritage Fund, we needed to have a sponsoring organization, and thank you very much for being willing to step up to do that, because that really started the ball rolling to allow us to apply for the grant. And once it was funded, we told the artists we're ready to go, and they've done just an amazing job of bringing that idea of what is the river and do it in a visual language that is very diverse, and that was all part of the process. We've really been inspired by the work that the city has been doing to help bring trails and places for people to experience the river in town, and that was one of the inspirations of bringing art to this, also to help people rediscover the river. So when we always think about artists as transformational creative leaders in our community, that they bring often a different vision than most of us in how to think about things. And so the grant really was that idea of using that transformational leadership to help bring people back to the river so that they become a chance to experience it, learn how the healing process that the river can bring to them, and also to help them really care for the river so that this precious asset that we have here will be here for many generations to come. So thank you for being willing to start that out. As you look at the displays and read some of the stories, it's kind of amazing how people interpret it, because certainly they thought of it as a physical space with plants and animals and water and buildings along the shore of it, but they've also taken kind of that secular approach. It's a place of economic dynamism. It's a place that we can go to physically walk along, but they've also taken the point of view that it's also a sacred place, that the river has some deep spiritual meanings, and it's represented in some of the other pieces talking about the lifeblood of our earth. And that's sort of a different meaning than I normally think of in a river. So it's great to have that insight that artists bring to it. And they also talk about this kind of the healing quality of the river, that by walking, being in nature's environment, to be able to sort of have that mental and spiritual renewal that a river environment can bring is really needed now, especially in the time of the pandemic when we've been isolated from each other, but we can get out and walk and still find places of both physical and mental healing. And a lot of the artists referred to that image in their pieces. So this great diversity helps us start to think about the river in a different way. Aldo Leopold, who talks about this same process in his seminal book on ecology, the Sand County Almanac, and I quote, "When we see land as a community to which we belong, we may begin to use it with love and respect." So the River Edge Project will democratize art also. The idea is that we will take the art, scatter it throughout businesses in the downtown area, so that when people are doing their normal shopping or going through places downtown, they will encounter art that they wouldn't expect. So it'll be a surprise to them. And in that way, they may not go to a gallery, or they may not go to a place of, where art is being displayed permanently, but certainly they'll experience it in unexpected ways. And when they do that, everybody has some kind of a story about water, whether it's a lake or a river or some experience in their lifetime. And we're going to invite people at each of those locations, as we have here, on the table here and the table in the entryway, we do have cards for you to write down your own story of the river. The river is, how would you complete that sentence? The artists have done it visually and then also in words, and so we're inviting people throughout the community to do that too. And as you think about that, you may just take an extra step and go see a place on the river. Get out of your car and walk near the river. I lived in town for 2 years before I realized where the falls were located, because I was driving in my car going across bridges, and when you're in a car, you really shouldn't be looking at the river anyway. But somebody said, well, let's go to the river walk. We walked along the river and was amazed at how we can experience it here in the town. But at that time, the buckthorn was still pretty tall and there was other obstructions, but that's been improved. The river now is much more accessible and we want to get people to come and enjoy that. It was amazing when I started talking to businesses about whether they would host art. Everybody was enthusiastic about that, just the way the artists were about producing the art. And so we were able to quickly find places up and down Main Street, places that are along the river. And so we'll be distributing that. Jess Dorgeson is the person who is the curator at the Cadets, but she's working on this grant to be able to distribute that. So you'll encounter that in different places. We did have Jesse Thorsted create some maps for the people that like physical maps. We actually have these. But you can also get a map on the internet through a QR code which will be posted with each of the places. So you'll be able to find it on your phone, do interactive searches with that, and be able to discover all the art. Or you may just randomly come across it while you're doing your normal business in town. And that's what we hope for. That art is just a normal part of our life, but it inspires us to take some action. Like the river environment, this project has a lot of moving parts. There's artists, there's business owners, city council members, staff that are helping us, curators, social media people, and a large swath of the general public will interact by filling in one of these cards. We also have the communities of people that stretch across 3 counties, because once the art is displayed in Fergus Falls, it'll be gathered in October and taken over to Breckenridge, a river city, and displayed in the library there as one collection. And after that, it'll be taken up to Moorhead and displayed at the Moorhead Library. And then finally in December, all the art will come back to Fergus Falls in one place and will be at the Fergus Falls Library in time for Over the River celebration. And at that point, the city will actually be the owner of it, and we'll get a chance to discuss at that time to see, so now where does the art flow? Does it stay here as a permanent collection? Does it go to the library and be checked out so people can have it in their homes? Or does it continue to flow through other river cities throughout our region? That's yet to be decided. But I want to thank you very much for helping do this. And the River Is project will help people start that journey of seeing, learning, understanding, and finally coming to love the river and other natural environments. Aldo Leopold predicted, quote, "Our ability to perceive quality in nature begins, as in art, with the pretty. It expands through successive stages of the beautiful to values as yet uncaptured by language." Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Kim. Thanks to Lake Region Arts Council, the Cadets, the local businesses, and of course, the artists. This is an exciting project, and I'm glad that the art will ultimately come back here.
It occurred to me that there are some artists here today.
Yep.
So if the artists who do have some of their art displayed, we didn't get name tags for you, but if you'd be willing to at least stand so people can see, match your picture to your face here. So we've got a few artists that are here today. So.
Thank you all again. And we're going to have a city council meeting next, which is going to also be riveting. So you're welcome to stay and join us for that. And to get that started, we're going to call on Pastor Kate Bruns to lead us in our invocation. Yeah, but you are free to leave in all.
Had I only known. Wow. It's amazing. Let's pray. Almighty God, creator of the universe, who brought order out of chaos, we praise you for the beauty of our world, for the procession of the seasons from spring now into summer, from planting to growth to harvest, from a blank canvas and just a kernel of an idea to the beautiful art created here today, from labor to rest. And Lord, we thank you for raising up leaders for our community and granting them the wisdom and courage to make good decisions for the benefit of our citizens. Bless this meeting and the people who carry out the work of the people. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Bruns. Good evening, everyone. It is 5:40, June 21st, 2022, and we'll call this meeting of the Fergus Falls City Council to order. Roll call, please.
Hicks.
Here.
Fish.
Here.
Schaefer is absent. Fleming.
Here.
Rupert.
Here.
Thompson is also absent. Edwards Arneson. And Gustafson.
Here.
We have a quorum. Barely, but we have a quorum. First item on the agenda is approval of the agenda, and we'll call on our city administrator, Andrew Bremsack.
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor. Council members, good evening. I do have one minor tweak to the agenda. Item H2, which was a resolution discontinuing the local option sales tax. That'll be a motion directing the city attorney to draft an ordinance to discontinue the local option sales tax. Bill will give us information related to that when we get there this evening.
Okay. So that'll be a motion directing the city attorney. Got it.
Yep.
Other than that,
Move we approve.
thank you, Jim.
I'll second.
Thank you, Caroline. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Under public hearings tonight, we have two public hearings. First is related to MS4 stormwater management, and we'll call on our city engineer, Brian Yavaro. Good evening, Brian.
Thank you. Good evening, Your Honor, and members of the council. Yes, today is a public hearing for our MS4 program. This is a requirement that we have an annual meeting in regards to this program. We do have a PowerPoint presentation. I'm not going to go through it verbatim. I just want to point out a few of the discussion points prior to opening up the public hearing for this. So if we can switch to the first slide, just want to go over some of the history. You know, this program, the Federal Water Pollution Control Act of 1948, was the first major U.S. law to address water pollution. Growing public awareness and concern for controlling water polluted led to sweeping amendments in 1972. As amended, this became what we refer to as the Clean Water Act. Important to note that this MS4 stormwater program is not initiated by the city of Fergus Falls, but rather mandated all the way from the federal government to the state government, to the state level. Now, if we move to the second slide, please. As mentioned, the MPC administers the Federal Clean Water Act through the NPDES, the National Pollution Discharge Elimination System. This is permitted to all the communities, more so communities over 10,000. We just recently had a new permit that was issued on November 16th, 2020, and we have an expiration of November 15th, 2025, generally a 5-year renewal of this permit. So, common question is, what is an MS4? MS4 is a municipal separate storm sewer system, acronym MS4. It's considered, I look at it as a conveyance system of conveyances of roads, drainage ditches, municipal streets, catch basins, curbs, curb and gutter ditches, man-made channels, storm drains, everything. So it's a very holistic, basically when a droplet hits how it's conveyed through all of our systems and enters either the river that we were just referring to, or even wetlands or natural water bodies. But this is mandated, mentioned for communities over 10,000 people because it's a publicly owned operation. So all the conveyance systems located within the city of Fergus Falls. So as applicants, under the general permit, we must submit a SWIP document when seeking coverage under the general permit. SWIP being Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan document. Components, the general SWIP is derived into the framework is about six counterparts, and I'm just going to go through those basically. They're called Minimal Control Measures, MCM. So we have MCM1, which is Public Education and Outreach. A component of what we're doing right now for this public meeting is considered part of MCM1. We have MCM2, Public Participation and Involvement. MCM3, Illicit Discharge Detection and Elimination. MCM4, Construction Site Stormwater Runoff Control. This is an aspect where our staff spends lots of time. We have MCM 5, post-construction stormwater management, and finally MCM 6, pollution prevention, good housekeeping for municipal operations. So this past year in the city of Fergus falls under this MS4 program. Our activity, we inspected 194 commercial sites weekly. We also visited 502 residential sites. We had 77 verbal warnings, and 58 out of 246 city outfalls were inspected, and 58 miles of storm sewer mapped within the city GIS. Our overall goal with this program is not to, we have to do enforcement. However, our main goal is to maintain reasonableness and be an educational resource with this program because we want to promote a better behavior. Next slide. Some things that are coming down other than growing inspection and administration by the MPCA. Currently, our general permit's $400. The MPCA is looking to increase that to $4,000 per year. That's not only for our community, but communities throughout the state. So those are things that always have discussions as we move forward. So prior to closing, the last slide here, we just has a picture of some of our volunteers. I just want to note Matt Harrington is our MS4 manager. He does have assistants, Devin Rieger as well. And I just want to note that we are in the process of doing our MS4 audit. We just had a meeting, 4-hour meeting with the MPCA last week. I think it's going quite well. All the questions were answered, but it's an ongoing thing. But I just want to really commend them on the work staff has done with us thus far. So at this time, Your Honor, I'll just request you open up the public hearing for the 2022 MS4 permit.
Thank you, Brian. And we will do that at this time. Anyone wishing to speak to the City of Fergus Falls Stormwater Management MS4 permit, please step to the lectern at this time. Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing. And I don't believe there's any action that needs to be taken. We just need to make sure that we hold the public hearing. So with that, thank you, Brian, for that information.
Ben, can I ask a question?
Please do, Scott.
Brian, do we have any way to have a reply to the state or the federal regarding their proposed increase from $400 to $4,000 per year on the permit? Or is that just mandated like everything else and we don't have a choice?
Yes, Your Honor, Councilmember Kwame. Yeah, we're part of the Greater Minnesota Stormwater Coalition. It's a part of a group. That's kind of our network that we do use in response to all the growing amendments through the new issuance of the general permit. That has been noted by a lot of communities and everything. And of course, as members of that coalition, that we share the same, and we'll be noting that too as well with the increased fees. But to be honest with you, there's a lot of other things that they got in the makings with the new general permit reissuance coming down. So
I guess I wouldn't be surprised to see fees increase over a 5-year window. But this seems like a pretty substantial increase that's worth at least pushing back on if we can.
Well, I think it's important to note, though, when people refer to our storm sewer enterprise fund, this is precisely what that fund was established for. It was to help with programs such as this, meeting the regulatory requirements, the staffing, everything. It's a very large program to administer, especially at the city level, and it does take a lot of staff time. But that's part of what that storm sewer fund is to help fund the city to be involved with this program. It is considered unfunded mandate, I guess.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Thanks, Scott. Any other questions? All right, we have one other public hearing this evening, and that is for the Healthcare Revenue Notes 2021A and 2021B, Lake Region Healthcare Corporation. And I'll call on Lake Region CEO Ken Madsen. Good evening, Kent.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for the time tonight. I believe the council pack includes a good recap of the purpose of the requested action. Due to some circumstances that were within our control, we're not expending some of the funds for our electronic medical record as fast as possible. We worked with bond counsel to identify some additional permitted uses of the proceeds of the loan, and the proposed amendment allows for those reimbursements. And this is the public hearing on that action tonight.
Thanks, Kent. We'll go ahead and open up the public hearing, then if the council has any questions, they can ask them at that time. But right now, we're going to open up the public hearing for Lake Region Healthcare Revenue Notes 2021A and 2021B. Anyone wishing to speak to that issue, please step to the lectern. State your name. Did we receive anything on that?
No, we haven't received any.
We haven't received any comments from the public in writing either, so seeing no one, public hearing is closed. It's back to the council. If anyone has any questions, they can direct them to our city attorney or to Kent. And we'll also look for a resolution approving the amended use of the proceeds by Lake Region Healthcare Corporation.
I'll offer that, Your Honor.
Thank you, Tom.
I'll second.
Thank you, Jim. Questions? Comments? Roll call.
Excuse me, Hicks.
Yes.
Fish.
Yes.
Tony.
Yes.
Hooper.
Yes.
Gustafson.
Yes.
That resolution is approved. Next on the agenda, we have the awarding of the bid for the airport weather observation system. And again, we'll call on our city engineer, Brian Yavaro.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yes, yesterday quotes were due for this project. They were received electronically and publicly open. Received a total of 3 bids at the type of the opening. Neo Electrical Solutions submitted the lowest quote in amount of $95,540. The engineer's opinion of problem cost was $107,500. So you got just a little punctuation. So myself and SCH have reviewed the bids and everything and determined everything is in good standing order. So I'm recommending to award this to Neo Electrical Solutions. As we move forward and everything, now that we know all costs are known, we'll be submitting for the state grant application that's due at the end of this month. Once I received an offer from the state, I'll present it to the city council for approval and final budget approval as well. I just want to note that this project and this contract is proposed to be funded 70% by the state and 30% local through our 456 fund. So at this time, I'm requesting an award to construction services contract to Neo Electrical Solutions in the amount of $95,540. I want to note this is contingent on receiving the state grant offer and also authorization to submit the state grant application for public improvement 9350.
Thank you, Brian. And we can do that with one resolution to award the airport weather observation system and also to go ahead with public improvement 9350. Someone like to offer that?
I'm gonna let you know.
Thank you, Anthony. Thanks, Scott. Any questions for Brian? Roll call, please.
Hicks.
Yes.
Fish.
Yes.
Tony.
Yes.
Hooper.
Yes.
Gustafson.
Yes.
That resolution is approved. We've already heard from Kim Embertson and the River Is. I encourage the public to check out the artwork when they get a chance. As Kim mentioned, it's going to be traveling around to some different cities. Ultimately, will be in the Fergus Falls Public Library, and then after that, to be determined where it finds its final home. But really encourage people to check out the great artwork that's in City Council chambers this evening.
Ben, would you like to mention the places in town where they are?
Scott, why don't you do that?
Okay. I thought Kim would do it, but he didn't. The downtown businesses that are involved are Chorus Closet, the Victor Lundin Company, Dandelion and Burdock, Bell Bank, United Way of Otter Tail and Wadena Counties, the Otter Cove Children's Museum, Fergus Brewing Company, the Viking Cafe, the Fergus Falls Senior Citizens Program, the Brick, Outstate Brewing Company, and Uncle Eddie's.
Thanks, Scott. We'd like to say thanks to all those businesses and also to the artists, to the city staff. Claire, I know you worked on this with Lake Region Arts Council, the Cadets, so thanks to everyone, especially to Kim Embertson. Thanks to everyone who put so much time and effort into this successful project. Under the consent agenda, we have 10 items this evening. If anyone would like to speak to any of those items individually, we will remove them.
Just pull the minutes, number one.
Number 1. Got it? Anything else? Seeing none, we can adopt the other 9 items through a resolution. Someone like to offer that? Thank you, Jim.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Anthony. Roll call, please.
Hicks.
Yes.
Fish.
Yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Cooper,
Yes.
Christensen.
Yes.
That resolution is approved. Item number 1 is a motion to approve the minutes from the June 6th, 2022 City Council and work session meeting and the June 15th Committee of the Whole.
Yep, the only thing I wanted to just amend was on June 6. I'm listed as being present and absent at the same time. Could
I
make
knew
that
you were
amendment.
good, but not that good, right?
Oh, good.
Mark the extra comments.
Yeah.
Nice job.
All right, they've been amended. So
With that, I'll offer the resolution.
make a motion.
Motion to- yeah.
Motion, someone second. Thank you, Jim. All in favor of that motion to approve the minutes, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you, Anthony. Under ordinance and resolutions, tonight we have a first reading of ordinance 28, 8th series, amending the zoning map from RA to I2. From RA and I2 to R4 at 301 South Bew Street as requested by the Fergus Falls Port Authority. We just need someone to introduce that this evening.
I'll introduce it, Your Honor.
Thank you, Jim. We also have a motion to discontinue the local option sales tax as of September 30th, 2022, and we'll call on our Finance Director, Bill Somar. Good evening, Bill.
Good evening. Thank you, Your Honor and Council. It is time to think about pulling the sales tax back off. As you recall, back in 2016, we had the voters of Fergus Falls approve the local option sales tax of 0.5% for the Fergus Falls Public Library. We're actually able to stop that sales tax in advance of the bonds being paid off. We will have accumulated enough resources to pay off those bonds that are due in December of 23. So as I calculate, we're just about there right now through the April collections. We have like 95,000 yet to collect, which we'll certainly collect by September. Department of Revenue needs 90 days notice, and that's why bringing that before you tonight. Any excess we may have at that time then would go to the general fund. After we've paid all the costs, we put a little bit of reserve in there for if there's any refunds due of sales tax. So asking you to simply direct the city attorney to draft an ordinance rescinding the local option sales tax.
Thank you, Bill. And we can have a motion directing our city attorney.
I'll make that, Your Honor.
Thank you, Anthony.
I'll second.
Thank you, Caroline. Any questions for Bill? All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you, Bill. Item number 3 is a resolution approving the authorization for the issuance of general obligation tax increment revenue bonds, Series 2022A, for the Campus View Development Project. And we have Doug Green, it looks like, on Zoom with us this evening. Good evening, Doug and Bill.
Yeah, I'll just kick it off a little bit. If you recall, the project we're talking about is the infrastructure project, putting in the streets, the sewer, the water, the storm water, up on the Campus View addition. So we'll have Doug go through the bond structure for this. But as you recall, the entire goal of this was to have a tax increment district capture those increased values from this new construction that wouldn't have happened but for this project. So we capture that new value, and then in place of the special assessments, then we have levied special assessments for the payment of these bonds, but we would replace those assessments with the tax increment when it's collected. Now, if there's not enough tax increment at some point, then we would send out assessment bills. We're certainly hoping not to do that. And one thing I will want to point out is there's a couple early years, certainly as we've been marching through, interest rates have started to go up. I know Doug will talk about that, so I will stop here shortly. But we have a couple years in the beginning where we'll have to see when we actually collect the revenue and make the bond payments, if we need to do any assessment bills or if we do a short interfund loan, since it would work out over the life of this. We'll evaluate that when we get to that point. I'll stop there and let Doug tell us about the structure.
Good evening, Doug.
We lost him.
Doug, are you muted?
No.
If not, I'll talk a little more.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Huh. Can you not hear me?
We can now.
Now we can.
All right, yeah, go ahead, Doug. Welcome.
Okay, I'm not sure what happened there. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, good evening. Let's see, are you seeing the appropriate screen? I was going to go through the pre-sale summary very quickly. Looks like if I can pull up the correct screen, there we go. This is also in your packet.
And we're not seeing that on our screen yet, Doug.
Says you're sharing new share screen. Okay, let's do. How about now? No?
Yep.
We have
You're
it.
good, Doug.
Okay, thank you. Well, so the purpose of this is to just authorize the sale. This is not something that's required by statute. It's just a good practice to make sure that we're all on the same page, to know that we are moving forward with the issuance of bonds. I know that there's been a whole lot of work put into this project, as there always is with oftentimes with these housing projects, especially in greater Minnesota. They're tough to come by, so I know a lot of work has gone into this. And they're fun, I guess, fun in quotes, because it's a little different structuring. It's not your typical street project where we're just doing level debt service each year, and we know exactly how the revenues are going to come in. So Bill did mention the interest rate environment, and I know everyone's hearing a lot about it, so I'll spend a little time on it. The first thing I will mention is that these are taxable bonds, and that's just because of federal IRS rules. This is for private development, so they do have to be taxable. And what that means is that the interest earnings on them is the investors pay taxes. That means it's a slightly higher interest rate, and that depends on the market at the time. But in general, we can say it's about 1% higher than the city would normally pay. And the graph that you have in front of you here is what we call the bond buyer index. It's one of the main municipal bond indices. It's very similar to to the Dow Jones for the stock market. Dow Jones is an index. It's a number. It really doesn't mean much. We just know it indicates the general direction of the stock market. You can look at this as the same thing. The black line is general obligation bonds, and then the green line is revenue bonds. But again, it shows the general level of the municipal market over the past 5 years. And as you well know, beginning at really at the first of the year, with the inflation numbers coming out, 8-9% year over year, that's going to have an impact on interest rates. And you can see that there to the right of the curve. But we really are just back up to those 2018 levels. So while we enjoyed, at least from a borrowing perspective, to historically low years, we're really just kind of back to where we were about 4 years ago. It certainly feels high, and especially selling taxable bonds. So I will move through this and not go over the details of it. It just goes into detail about the bond issuance, and go right to the sources and uses of funds. We need to raise about $1.5 million to fund construction. We need to include the first few interest payments in that, and then we have our estimated financing costs, and then we also expect to receive a premium in the bid. All that ties together to issue bonds of $1,670,000. Ultimately, when we sell the bonds, this premium will change. This discount will change a little bit, so this number will be slightly different, but it will certainly be in this ballpark. At the end of the day, we'll still raise about $1.5 million to fund this construction project. then I'll just go to the debt service page. As you see here, this is not your typical amortization schedule when we're issuing bonds for for a street project. We have to wait until the TIF revenue comes online to start to pay the debt service. And so by law, we can only capitalize 3 years of interest. And you can see that here, that's CIF, Capitalized Interest Fund. And so we start paying, our first interest payment is actually in August of 23. That is included in this 70,000 number for this interest payment. And then we could push off principal out to 29. And the TIF district, we have the authority to keep that open all the way to 2049. The way the TIF revenue comes in, we believe we're going to be able to pay it off a year early. Of course, we really don't know how this TIF revenue is actually going to come in. Hopefully it'll come in sooner, and hopefully it'll come in higher with appreciation in the values of the homes. But for now, we are estimating a slight deficit in years 3 and 4 of this project, and hopefully make it up in the later years. Keep in mind, this is comparing to 105%. So there is some cushion in there, and as I mentioned earlier, there's no appreciation in the home values over time, just to be extra conservative. So hopefully we don't have those deficits. If we do, they're likely to be a little bit smaller, and we will make it up over time. So a little more detail into the bond structure, as we call it, the normal, but just wanted to make sure that everyone is on board with what we're financing. Moving forward, we'll finalize the official statement. We'll go through another rating call. I expect things to go very well. Then we'll, take the bids. I'm forgetting the day right now offhand. And then the July meeting, and then we'll bring them to your consideration. Actually, let me step back. Because we're actually going to sell the bonds on a non-council day. Correct. The regular council day is July 18th, correct? And the reason why we chose not to sell on that day is because just a simple supply and demand. There's a lot of bond sales in the market that day. And so we would be competing against a lot of different sales. We just wait a day, and there's far fewer sales. And so you can simply just get better pricing, obviously, with smaller supply in the market. And so what we'll do is allow the mayor, city administrator, and finance director to accept the bids based off maximum par amount and interest rate. And that technically gets the bond sold, and then we'll bring a resolution to the full council at the July 27th meeting. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Yeah, thanks, Doug, for walking us through it. Does anyone have any questions for Doug based on the information? If not, we'll need a resolution to approve the authorization for the issuance of general obligation tax increment bonds. Someone like to offer that resolution?
I'll offer it.
Thanks, Caroline.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you, Doug. Roll call, please.
Thank you very much.
Hicks.
Yes.
Fish.
Yes.
Tony.
Yes.
Rupert.
Yes.
Gustafson.
Yes.
A resolution is approved. All right, item number 4 is a resolution approving the creation of a communications specialist position within the City Administration Department. And I'll call on our City Administrator, Andrew Brumsath.
Thank you, Your Honor. Council members, I'm going to kick us off, and then I'll toss it over to our Human Resources Director, Mike Hartwell, to talk about some of the wage implications and the job description. But as some of you may know, this is a topic that we've discussed for the last several years, and it has not made it through the Tax Levy Committee process thus far. At a recent meeting of the council, this topic came up again, and it seemed pretty evident that there was a desire of the city council to explore this. So we've done some work to put numbers together and look at what this may entail, and wanted to put that before you this evening and see if this is the direction you want to go. I do see a lot of benefits to moving in this direction for the city. Not only internal communications and council communications, but having a dedicated person that does outreach and communication on a full-time basis, which we don't currently have, will allow the citizenry and the public to be more informed and more engaged in the city government process, which I think we all would argue is the most important function of the work that we do. We currently have staff doing this on top of many other duties and not giving it the time and attention that it deserves. And I guess that's me saying we just don't have the capacity existing today to do this any better than we're doing it today. What I envision and what folks that I've talked to envision in this position is somebody that reaches multiple mediums more so than we do today, potentially informing and engaging residents and people that we don't currently reach, which I think is always a good goal. So if the council wants to move in this direction, you would approve the creation of this position. We don't do this often, obviously. I don't think we can recall the last time we added a full-time position. We've done a lot more cutting. But the council needs to approve the creation of the position, and then Mike and I will go forward with the hiring process to get somebody in this role. As I mentioned in the memo, the goal is to have somebody start around September 1st if we move in this direction. So the wage would come out of this year's fund balance. This year would come out of fund balance, and then it would go through the tax levy process again to be included in the 2023 budget. So I'll toss it over to Mike, and he can talk about how he landed on the wage and answer any questions you may have about the position.
Good evening. We took this position and the job description that we created and sent it out to Fox Lawson, who did the actual DBM rating review on it, and that position came back as a C42, which really has a range currently of about 65,000 to 88,000. We're looking to source this person somewhere in that midpoint between that range. So the impact for 2022, if this were to be approved, would be $30,000 or $37,000 that would come from the fund balance, and then we'd budget in 2023 $114,517, which would be the actual tax levy adjustment to cover that position. That would be wages and full city benefits for that total price. The working budget also, we would allocate $50,000 for that person to have a budget to work from to basically handle all the various media demands and various sourcing that we would need for that position to be successful.
I'll add a couple things too, Your Honor. Thank you,
Andrew.
Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Claire and I have had a few discussions with some folks in the industry locally to Fergus Falls, and have gotten some guidance based on that wage being an appropriate range. But also I've talked with other industry experts more in the content creation side, and that's where this $50,000 number is coming from. That's what they determined would be a good, robust strategy for somebody to be able to employ in a year. So there's a little bit of rationale behind that number, but of course we would hone in on what that may look like more as we get a better understanding. Just one more comment I want to make. I thought it was kind of interesting. Last week we kicked off our strategic planning work groups, and in two of the work groups where we had the most attendance, the topic of communications became part of the discussion. And I thought that was funny. And the feedback was really, how do we better engage the community? How do we get to a point where people aren't saying, I never heard about that, or I never knew what that was, or what are you talking about? And, or, why is the city doing X, Y, and Z? And, I'm not sure that this person is going to come in on day one and be able to have all the answers and create that, but they're going to create a strategy and execute on that strategy on how to try to do better with those things and reach those people. So that's really the proposal before you. If the council wants to move in this direction, again, the action this evening is a resolution approving this position, and then Mike and I will run with it from here.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks, Mike. Tom?
I will offer that resolution, and then I have comments.
Thank you. Tom? Someone like the second?
I'll second.
Caroline? Okay, thank you, Caroline. Go ahead, Tom.
I fully support the creation of this position. I think it's a fantastic idea. It's going to give, it's going to make our staff's jobs easier, because we're going to have a person that's got a dedicated focus on that task of communication versus spreading it out over a couple of different people. Them taking the time, and of course, nothing against the job that the staff is doing now, because with everything else on their plate, the appropriate people, I think, are doing the best they can. But this is going to keep our citizens a lot more informed and up to date on what's going on. It's going to help the city get our message out before folks on social media make up their own narrative on what's going on, and before rumors get started. We're going to have somebody who's in the loop right there, ready, informed to address those, concerns as they come up. I think it's going to make our lives easier as council members. I think it's a great idea. It's long overdue, and I fully support it.
Thanks, Tom. You want to question?
Where will their office be?
I'm glad you asked that question. Well, I'll say this. Internally, we're discussing that, and there's multiple options. We have not concluded that discussion. I don't know the answer to that today, and quite honestly, I think part of that will depend on who we hire. But there's several options.
Okay.
And locations may look a lot different over the coming months inside City Hall. So I won't say anything more than that.
Andrew's office could be subdivided.
but my office is primed for the taking.
All right. Sounds like there's more to come on that one. Okay, go ahead. Scott? Yes.
As you list out the job responsibilities and whatnot in the position description, would this person be required to attend all council meetings and various other meetings? Because I didn't see that necessarily called out as a requirement.
Yeah, Your Honor, Councilmember Kwame, great question. Absolutely. I think the expectation, or not I think, I know the expectation would be that this person attends several meetings, a lot of meetings on a weekly basis, and has the pulse of what's happening, internally to City Hall and with the city as an organization, and would be able to offer commentary, talking points, press releases, all of the above as it relates to the business of the city internally and the city council.
I think it would be appropriate to specifically include that in the requirements in the position description.
Good. Yeah, no, I think we can, there's a few things that we need to tweak and add, but that just gives you, I think, a general idea of what it may look like. So we're not approving that tonight, but that's good feedback.
Okay.
And then I think, on that same note, that's a good point, coming up with some sort of a metric as far as community involvement and attending community events, so that person can, help keep their finger on the pulse, and then also, be visible and available for people to ask questions to and to get to know and that kind of thing. So that's those two aspects of, city meetings and events, and then just, events in town would be worthy of attendance, would be good to establish.
Tom would very likely invite him to join the new Kiwanis, for example.
Yes, everyone should join the Noon Kiwanis Club. Can I say that?
Thanks, Tom. Go ahead, Anthony.
I would agree to a certain extent, but people can end up in meetings for meeting's sake, and just nominating somebody to attend meetings then they don't get their job done because they don't have enough time because they're in another meeting. So, I mean, I think there's a balance between meeting and function. As you say, I think the goal is to get the message out, direct from the horse's mouth rather than through the rumor mill. So, I mean, I think if there's more critical meetings to attend, those are the ones that they should be there. The lesser meeting, if there's something kind of comes out of it, then I think that would be collectively for all of us and staff to seek the communication person out and say, this one could become a topic that you might need to brush up on quickly.
Thank you.
Good,
Anthony?
thanks.
Other comments? We have a resolution and a second to create this position. Roll call, please.
Hicks.
Yes.
Fish.
Yes.
Conley.
Yes.
Rupert.
Yes.
Gustafson.
Yes.
I suppose
That res-
one last question would be, where are you going to advertise it?
Go ahead, Anthony.
Where are you going to advertise it?
I'll defer to Mike. Where are you going to advertise the position?
Everywhere and everywhere.
What communication platform?
All of them.
Big banner.
TikTok.
So Mike's making a TikTok?
MySpace? Is that
Yeah.
MySpace?
Right.
Yeah, MySpace.
Yeah, no.
GeoCities?
We'll cover a lot of bases, and one strategy that I think is wise with a position like this is to target some of the schools that have degree programs in communications, and we'll do that for area schools, and Mike may make a TikTok, so we'll see how that plays out. I don't know what TikTok is, but
Sounds exciting. So you're probably not the one for the
I'm
job.
not the guy.
Anyway, presentation of claims. Tonight we have claims in the amount of $1,117,567.53. Someone like to make a resolution?
All out for the resolution to pay the bills.
Thank you, Jim. Silence.
Chris is not here to
I
second.
think Scott's next in line.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Scott.
I'd like to put her name on it.
If there are any questions, we'll direct them to our finance director. Seeing none, roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Conley.
Yes.
Rupert.
Yes.
Gustafson.
Yes.
That resolution is approved. That concludes the agenda for this evening that I know of. If there's any messages, or Lynn?
We'd just like to make a big reminder that the city's 150th birthday party is coming up 9 days from now, on June 30th, from 4 to 8 p.m. at the new beautiful downtown Riverfront Pavilion, before to 8 p.m. Everyone's welcome. There'll be free live music. There's going to be food and beverages for purchase. Lots of city vehicles out there for little kiddos. And then the first 500 people that attend get a free birthday cake flavored ice cream courtesy of Uncle Eddie's. So be there quick to get that in the first 500. So we're looking forward. We want to make sure everyone in the community knows that they're invited.
Everyone's invited. Thursday, June 30th, 4 to 8, Riverfront Pavilion. Thanks to Lynn, Clara, all the city staff that have put so much work in. Looking forward to a really fun evening. I can't wait. It's gonna be fun. Thanks, Lynn and Clara,
And then our next
and all
committee-
staff.
And our next committee, the whole meeting is canceled, correct?
That's correct.
The whole meeting's canceled. Yes.
I think the council members that showed up tonight should get free pizza.
Free what?
Pizza.
All right. With that, we're adjourned.